Before meeting QD3 or around that time, did you have anything materialize before your tracks on the Sound Lab?
No, man. I had a bunch of bad demos that I still have. At that point, I'm still just trying to sound like Rakim, like to keep it very real. I'm just like, just that's what I'm doing. Um, and I was working with QD3, and I just sounded a lot like Rakim, and I couldn't let it go. And then at a certain point, I just started to like go, well, I have a deep voice, like, but like not that deep. And also, like, how do I think that someone's rap voice should sound like their speaking voice. Like when you think about it, the way Jay, I'm not an impressionist, but like the way Jay talks, because Jay-Z's one of my favorites ever. I think one of the best like 10 goats ever. But like, you know, when he talks, and he's just, that's how he rhymes, and it's just like it's laughing through his rhymes, like it's just all that thing. So even though I had to like lose the Rakim, I was heavily influenced by Africa from the Jungle Brothers, and definitely influenced by Tip. But it was more than that, because what people don't realize is that I was also very influenced by Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys. So at that time, I'm listening to these dudes and I'm trying to find my own voice. Remember, I'm like 16, 17 years old. Like my voice is changing. So I'm working with Q and we're doing songs and songs and songs. And by the way, the studio that we recorded these songs in, a place called Echo Sound, where I live really close to now, that's no longer there, regularly the other artists, and there's 3 rooms. No, 2 rooms. The other artists were frequently Too Short, Tupac, Cube when he was like solo, and like basically like I was literally, I am not joking with you. I have a core memory of I watched Ice Cube play his crew DOS Effects in the parking lot, and we know what his record sounded like after that. Like,
Right. And
my
even had them on Check Yourself, Wreck Yourself, right? The chorus.
right. And this is before then, man. But like Funky Town Pros, you were a great LA group. Um, Boy Wonder, rest in peace. He died last year. Great MC. But like Kev from Gumbo, he had a group called Poet Society back then. He was on the QD3 Soundlab, right?
Mhm.
And so it was, we worked there. Too Short, who I met back then. I never met Pac back then. We were all at the studio. So we were just grinding and making songs and making songs. And then we put out that record, and the label was like, hey, we want you to do a video and be a single. I'm like, damn. Basically, his dad was like, Quincy Jones, the GOAT, rest in peace, was like, hey, Snoop, why don't you just like, I'm going to put out a record of all of your artists. And like, it was really a test to see what stuck. And then they were going to sign somebody. And out of all the rappers and artists who were on it, mine stuck. And on that record you can hear my evolution, because there's like a few songs, and one of them is like a song I did called Riding with the Rhythm, and it's just let the rhythm hit them. Like I'm just too, like I'm literally just trying to do Rakim as a kid. But then, because growth happens so fast, I found my sound within weeks, or because studio sessions were like once a week, because I was still going to high school. By the next session, we end up doing like Season of the Vic and Stepping with the Sound, and all of a sudden, like, I'm like, dude, stop trying to be Rakim, just like be your own weird black hippie self. And I think it would be insane not to mention, at this time, De La drops Daisy Age, and for the first, again, goosebumps literally just now, for the first time I felt completely seen, because even though I love the Jungle Brothers, I still felt that they were grimy, like in a way that, like, it was clear they were from Brooklyn. Like, they were no joke. Like, anybody who knows the culture of this knows, like, Baby Chris, rest in peace, Chris Lighty was like their road manager, and Red Alert was their cousin. Like, these dudes were from like, Murray Bertram High in Brooklyn, and they were grimy, but they were doing it in like, safari clothes and with African medallions and influencing us. but De La were weirdos. And I was like, I think that as much as I talk about those other groups, I think that the truth is that my music for the next 2 or 3 years was probably more influenced by when the Beastie Boys did Paul's Boutique and when De La did 3 Feet High and Rising, and then De La Soul is Dead. And when the Beastie Boys did Check Your Head. Like that was really big for me. And so, you know, De La, they're friends. I love them. Dave, rest in peace. But I don't really give them enough flowers. And it's weird. It's not because I don't, it's just an oversight that people have just, oh, you sound like Tip, you sound like Tip. And it's like, yeah, but guess who my first, like, even though I love Tip on the promo, I wore out Potholes. I wore out Jennifer. I wore out 3 is the Magic Number, which I can't tell you how many people were like, dude, let the whole record play. I'm like, nope, 3 is a magic number. Is going to keep going 10 times. Then we'll go to the next song. Right. Like that changed my life. So QD3 and I were making music in the studio and I was learning. I started going, hey man, like I'm making beats on this drum machine, but how do you sample? How do you do this? And like, he taught me everything. And then, you know, I was fortunate enough to meet Prince Paul through Droby. I learned from him. And that just is like a cycle of mentors that I've had in my life, male and female, who have taught me a lot about music and helped me get here, which is why I try and do the same thing and like pass it along and be that for other people that are younger in the game.
Right. For me, Season of the Vic, I'm watching that in real time. That was my first introduction to you. So tell me the reaction when that hit the airwaves, hit Rap City, MTV, your MTV Raps. What kind of feedback did you get when that hit the streets?
Well, I mean, it's mixed, man, because like when I did it, the funny thing that nobody ever said, and when I say nobody, I mean, I have not seen one internet comment. I've never been asked in an interview. For all the people talking shit and like tipping this, I sampled Q-Tip in the song. like, like the, just real quick, because it's funny and it struck me years back. I'm sampling my heroes in it. So when you hear Season of the Vic, the Season of the Vic, vultures flock in around all corners. Well, that's Beyond the Planets by, I'm pretty sure that's the one, on Done by the Forces of Nature by the Jungle Brothers, the JBs. So I've sampled now Africa Baby Bam, who people said I look like his little brother. And like, I rode that hard. And I was like, he was my favorite rapper. I sampled my favorite rapper on it. And then Season of the Vic, vultures flocking around all corners. That's Africa. Tired of brothers who fiend to backstab. Might be Mike G. It might be Africa. I forget. But the point is, on the chorus, I am sampling the Jungle Brothers. Like, I am making it very clear. Like, I'm not going to be the dude sampling KRS, the greatest at the time, whatever. I'm not going to be the dude sampling Chuck. I'm sampling the Jungle Brothers. So when QD3 had the sample of the Sly Stone in Time, I was like, oh, that's ill. And then we like picked the right break beat from the Ultimate Breaks and Beats, and he made the beat. And I was like, well, some people, they trip, some flam and some flip. Of course I was like sounding like Tip. If you're 17 and you are literally standing backstage or side stage at a Tribe Called Quest show at a college or a show where there's a few hundred people and nobody knows this group, and you've been listening to them on a worn out cassette of the Jungle Brothers because listening to either Jim Browski or the promo, trying to soak up every bit of, because they said it years before that they were coming. And that was in 1988. We were waiting like, well, where is it? And then they finally get a deal. And then they come out and they do it. And they put out Description of a Fool and El Segundo. And I was with them in LA hanging out when that happened. He was my hero. Like, of course I sounded like him. So I do the rhyme. And then at the end, I threw in a little Q-tip. At the end, it goes, this situation makes me sick. And it like, and then it ends. And it was like, yo, this is me as a kid who now is living in Laurel Canyon, like hippie center of the world, going, this is my Laurel Canyon version. I'm going to be in the native tongues, which I'm still working on at almost 52 years old, and it's going to happen. I got in Zulu Nation right then, but I did not get native tongues, but I'm gonna. And so it's like that influence, of course. So when you say reaction, the source, shit on me. All the rap sheets and everything, shit on me. All of a sudden, it's getting played on the radio. All of a sudden, it's in the charts. That's how my dad found out that I had a record deal. He didn't know. I wasn't living with him at the time. He was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Dad. QD3 and Quincy put me on. Blah blah blah." Kev. So now the press is shitting on me. The industry is holding me up. And then I go to San Francisco for like when we used to do conferences. You remember like a conference? Like yeah, dude, Gavin. I forgot the name. And then there was one at Berkeley too, which was wild. So I go to Gavin and I meet Souls of Mischief, and they're like, "Yo, like this is, you know," and I'm like, "Yep, like I love you guys." And I meet Dell in New York because Droby's like, "Yo, he wants to come through and hang," and we're like, "Yo, kindred spirit." I'd already been very close with Freestyle Fellowship with Micah 9 and Self Jupiter Peace, and I'd come up loving those guys and influenced by them because they were the best MCs in LA at the time. I don't care what anybody says. Like without Freestyle Fellowship, there's no Far Side. There's no dude. Like Freestyle Fellowship put it down. Right. You know, Good Life, all that. I wasn't a part of that. I was going out to like the Zulu Nation Club, Water the Bush, and United Nations, and Africa Islam put me on to Zulu Nation. But all that to say, I was received in the scene. People were like, "Yo," like I was like the local boy who did good because I was also one of the first to be on the radio. Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like if you get played in the clubs or underground, like the difference between Season of the Vic, within like 3 years, people were like into Onyx. Like it was a weird time and shift, right? But when I came out with Season of the Vic, people were like, "There's no way that dude's from LA." They're like, some people were like, "There's no way that's not Tribe." And the people that I know, like, it was a big deal, bro. Like I was with will.i.am and Kweli about 4 years ago. And out of nowhere, I hadn't seen Will in years. And he came up to me and I was like, "Bro," and we were hugging. And Will stopped the whole room. I mean, dude, this was like Dave Chappelle. This was a deep, deep crew. I'm not trying to like name drop. I'm saying this was so humbling to me and a testament to who Will is as a person. He shut down because we're backstage at a little gig that Chappelle was doing. And I was just a fly on the wall. And he's like, "Do you know this dude is right here? Do you know this dude?" He's like, "When I was a kid, he was the first one on the radio." And this is like a dude who like, I mean, I feel like will.i.am is going to be like the first rapper to go to the moon. So it's like the fact that this dude was like, he was the first one of anybody we knew who was on the radio. And then Kweli was like, "Yo, bro, like when I was doing this and that, when Season of the Vic dropped," and I've known Kweli for a long time. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yo, bro, you don't even know." And I was like, so that love was there, but there was definitely haters who were like, "Fake Q-tip, fake this," but I've been dealing with that my whole life, and I still do. I don't care. Like, dude, when you're 17 and you go to New York and you're walking down the street to go buy some weed in Harlem with Jerobi, and somebody comes off the porch, and like so, like 4 dudes come off the stoop, like shirts off, just looking like just straight hoods. They're like, "Yo," and I'm like, "Jerobi, maybe we should keep walking." He's like, "No, we're cool." We turn around. He's like, "What?" And they're like, "Ain't you that Season of the Vic dude?" Like that was crazy, bro. Like I felt like a made man. But to be totally honest, I never think about this. It was a little bit challenging because it wasn't universally loved. I didn't understand why people couldn't rock with me in the press, but I was on the radio and I'm on MTV, and like it was crazy. And then the funniest thing was, I'll tell this one last story because it's pretty incredible. But I was in New York, the single had come out. I was hanging out with Premier and Guru. Anyways, I was hanging out in the scene, and we called him Baby Chris, but Chris Lighty came up to me and he's like, "Hey, what's up, Justin?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you." And I must have met him once before. Daps me up, hug, and like I feel like so cool. He's coming over to me. And he's like, "Yo, can I talk to you for a second?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And he whispers to me, he's like, "Yo, I heard your new single. It's hot." I'm like, "Thank you, dude." And he goes, "Check this out." And he comes in close, and he's way bigger than me. And he's like, "When your record comes out, if it sounds like Tip, I'm going to fuck you up." And this is like one of the most feared dudes in New York City. This is the era of like the Decepticons, and like people come out of the Latin Quarter, and Chris Lighty has a scar on his face. Like everybody knows. If you don't know, listen to the podcast. Like, so when some kid from the Valley who's like been punched in the face once, like here's that from Chris, I was shook. I went to Jerobi. Oh my God, Chris said he's gonna fuck me up. He's like, he's fucking with you. Oh my God. I probably spent 2 or 3 nights thinking about only that. I couldn't even I was so uncomfortable. I was so shook. I remember bringing it to Premiere and I'm like, dude, what do I do? He's like, you're fine. I brought it to Guru because I was hanging with them because Guru was supposed to do some of my first record. People don't know that we were hanging out and smoking blunts, me and him and Guru. And I was like, this is one of the best producers in the world. But like at the end of the day, Prince Paul gave me a tape and I wanted every single beat he gave me. And I was like, you can only do so many. People think it's crazy, but I wouldn't change a thing because Prince Paul is like, come on, 3 feet high and rising. That's me. Like, I'm not like, I'm not like, a mass appeal type beat rapper. Now I am more than that. So anyways, long story short, couple days go by. I finally see Chris at a club. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Tip. This is the important part. Yo, Tip, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, what's up, Jay? Yo, bro, like, I saw Chris and he said this and blah, blah, blah. And like, dude, the Source and like, I forget who they called him, like the mad rapper, somebody in Source. And like, I'm like, they're all shitting on me, bro. And they're all saying that like, I sound like you. And like, bro, like, I just don't want this to be weird with us. And he just looks at me, bro. And like, this is why I love this dude forever. He's just like, I'm 17. He could only be like 22, maybe. He's like, he's like, you know, in his voice, he's like, yo, and he just comes to me. He's like, you and me know what it is. He's like, you think you sound like me? I go, I think I'm influenced by you, but I'm trying to do my own thing. He goes, I know you are. He's like, bro, you're my boy. You're my man. I've known you since this and that. He's like, you and I know what it is. He's like, I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. He's like, we're always cool and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, bro, I love you, bro. And then like I saw Chris and Jerobi walks over to him. I'm like, please go talk to him and squash it. He's like, you go talk to him. I'm like, no. I'm like, please. Jerobi walks over and then Chris starts laughing and he walks over. He's like, bro, you thought I was serious? He's like, I was fucking with you. So like anybody that like, anytime it wasn't well received, it's hard to like take that serious when like Lakim Shabazz comes up to me and is like, yo, bro, Season of the Vic is my shit. Or when like, Greg Nice is like, yo, that song is amazing. Or like Light or anybody like, dude, like, I don't care what a journalist at that point thought, no disrespect to the art, but it's like my peers, I mean, even saying peers sounds weird, but technically peers at the time embraced me. And so like, it gave me a chip on my shoulder. And like, to this day, I listen to hip hop. I love hip hop. I love lots of modern hip hop. I'm not a get off my lawn. You guys don't know. It was like, I think there's terrible rap music out there, but hip hop is always great. Right. But like, honestly, dude, like when I look back now, I'm like, Jay-Z rapped on like Hawaiian Sophie with Big Jazz, but I put out a solo single before Jay-Z. Like, I probably dropped my single before Nas did Live at the Barbecue. Like, I don't know if the dates add up, but what I'm saying is to even be considering that timeline. When I first met Questlove, it was at the Grammys. And just for perspective, bro, this is in 2002. No, 2003. After 9/11, I'm broke. I'm going through a breakup. I'm living in Los Angeles. I get a job to be a stylist assistant doing wardrobe for members of No Doubt because they're doing a Grammy tribute to Joe Strummer, who just died from The Clash. I'm there. I'm outside smoking and crying because I'm having a breakup. I'm inside and I'm dressing like Tony Kanal from the band, who I don't even think he remembered that until I told him recently because now we're friends. I'm like, that was me who styled you back then. And I see Eminem walking through and I'm like, damn. And I'm like, I'm feeling so outside the industry. Like, I feel like I'm just a help. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get back in. I'm at this point sober for a number of years because like I went off the rails on that at some point in 1999, got clean when I was living in London. So like, I'm like, maybe I'll never make music again. It's all good, but I have a job, going through this breakup. I saw Questlove. And I ran and stopped him. And I go, hey, I don't mean to bug you. My name's Justin Warfield. And he's like, bro. And he had just put out that song on the Roots record that did the roll call, like the Warriors. And it was like, this is a shout out to the architects who built this culture, blah, blah, blah. And they go alphabetically. And Justin Warfield. And it delays. When my friend told me this is like pre like DMs or all that, you know, my friend hit me and was like, you got to like listen to like this Roots thing. So I went out and I got the record and I bought it. I put it on vinyl and I was like, what? And it felt so vindicating. So when I saw Quest, I go, dude, why? I got to ask you a question. Why did you put me on that? He's like, bro, I mean, I had to. He's like, you're a legend. You're an OG. And I was like, nobody can tell me shit now. Like, you know what I mean? And like, I did a mixtape years later and I used that for the intro. This thing called the Black Hesh Cult mixtape I dropped in 2011. And I dropped it. And it was me going, okay, cool. This is like 20 years after I did my first record, like I'm going to flex this. So I feel very proud of my life in hip hop, but it's weird because it's kind of incomplete because by the time I got any steam, I was like, I want to be in a rock band.